Greetings, everyone. And welcome to hey, at least we got a film made. What did you do today? Edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party.
Monster Party. Those are my odd sounds. I'm making odd sounds. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we're back and we've got another topic, and that's really all I have to say.
But speaking of odd, who are you, sir?
There you go. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I am Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James GONIS.
And for this episode, we were planning on doing this a while back as part of another topic that we did.
Yes.
But that topic became so interesting and big that we decided to do this as a separate piece, and we decided to do it with just us because we are the hardcore. And when it comes to this topic, I think we really know our stuff.
Yes, we do.
At least I do. So the topic for this episode is, you ready for this, guys?
Yeah.
Drum roll. Genre oddities.
Genre oddities.
Genre oddities. They're odd.
Weird.
They're in the sci-fi horror fantasy genre.
But experimental. Avant-garde.
Experimental.
Maybe you've heard of these.
Unusual.
Maybe you have.
It's like we've entered the freak show of the carnival.
Ooh, I like
not necessarily
that.
for all taste.
Oh, wow.
You know,
I
off
like
the beaten
it.
path. You know,
The dog-faced film. That's kind of how we're looking at this. Yeah.
Sometimes the freak show can be scary, you know.
Can be, yes, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But we'll
be funny.
Compelling.
We'll try to guide you with our expertise.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to
and maybe
guide
enlighten you.
and enlighten you. We're going to do both those things at least, and maybe a few more, because we love these type of films. And I guess, you know, when we were preparing for this, everybody had a different idea of what an oddity was when it came to a film. So this is going to be interesting because it's not only the film, but it's the story behind it. It's maybe the idea of the film, but we'll get to that soon. I think what we should do, guys, is since we have, I would say, our resident film expert,
Oddity.
especially with oddities. Yes, he's seen a lot of genre oddities. So
He's
Shawn,
not odd. He's not odd.
He's odd in a delightful way.
Proudly say I'm odd. Yeah.
He's just like this little imp who just
An oddity.
he's an oddity imp, and he prances about the field
By prancing in an odd way.
in an odd way.
When I think of Shawn, I think of the oddity imp.
Yeah, I see you with a pan flute.
Yes. All right. I can start us off because I think this film definitely is an oddity. This film is quite experimental. Matt, I think you've at least seen this. This is an experimental film. It's only about an hour long. It was made in 1955, and it's known under two titles. The one title is Dementia.
Yeah.
And the other title is Daughter of Horror.
Horror.
This is a strange black and white experimental horror film directed by John Parker and starring an actress named Adrienne Barrett, who was actually Parker's secretary at the time.
Ooh.
And it was conceived as a short film originally, and it was based on a dream that this guy had. And basically
of fucking his secretary?
well, kind of, sort of. Black and white, very moody. It takes place in Los Angeles or on Venice and Skid Row. And it basically follows this woman who wanders around the city at night, having these bizarre experiences, and she's being pursued by a possible killer. She's being hit on by these sleazy guys. She wanders into like a jazz club, and it's just it's very, very bizarre. And it also, the movie has no dialogue in it. So it's very expressionistic. It has, it has very film noir aspect to it. And it was actually acquired by Jack H. Harris, the producer, who
of Blob fame.
Exactly. He was known for doing this. He would take movies and kind of like expand upon them, like Equinox, so forth. And Jack Ace Harris took it and re-edited it, and he added voiceover narration because there was no dialogue. And the narration was by Ed McMahon.
Wow.
But
So every time she's walking down an alley, it's a hi-yo.
No, he does it in a very like, and then she could not take the horror that was about to. It was like it's very over the top, pulpy narration, and it follows.
I've never seen this.
Oh, yeah, check it out. You can find it on YouTube, and you kind of get the idea that she has maybe herself committed a murder. She's trying to run from it, and a lot of character
Don't ruin it.
Character actors are in it, like Bruno Vesada, Angelo Rosito is in it, the little person actor. And it's very cool though. It's again, it's about an hour long, and it's very strange, but really worth seeing it. Also, because it's a lot of actual on location filming from the 50s at the time around LA, and it's got good jazz music in it. It's really strange, but I recommend checking it out. It's known as Dementia, also known as Daughter of Horror, and you can definitely find it like on YouTube. And it was released on DVD, and it's cool. It's kind of cult film now, and it's very bizarre, especially something that was made in the 50s, and it was banned at the time too because of its sleazy content. It wasn't shown for a while, but it's definitely worth checking out.
You know, because we associate Ed McMahon with The Tonight Show, it kind of taints his narration, I think, in a way of we associate it with that. But if you didn't know that, Ed McMahon has a really great voice.
Yes.
And I know, I heard it up close. I was on Star Search.
Really?
Oh.
I did two rounds of Star Search.
Wow.
Nice.
I lost out to a friend, which was okay. And I had a good time. It was a good time, and he was nice, but it was weird being on stage, and then there's Ed McMahon, right? Hi. Anyway, so your comedy. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? I'm with Ed McMahon.
Do you have this on tape?
Your Star Search?
You know what? Maybe somewhere. That might have been one that I didn't get the because
maybe on YouTube.
Maybe it is. But yeah, I'm on there. I'm somewhere there. If you're a hardcore Star Search collector, and you watch them over and over again, I wouldn't mind seeing me. But at the time, because I lost kind of relatively early, I think I was a little bitter about it, so I never really wanted to watch it. But But can I say something about Ed McMahon? There's a movie called The Incident, and it's with Beau Bridges and Martin Sheen, and Ed McMahon is in it, and Brock Peters. And the story is that there is I believe it's a subway car. I forget if it's a subway car or a bus, but anyway, all these people are on this car, and these two hoods, and one of them is Martin Sheen, come on and just start fucking with everybody, and that is the film. And Ed McMahon is in it, and he's like hey, don't get involved. We shouldn't get involved. Honey, do something. Like, let's just be quiet, maybe they'll go away.
Wow.
And he's that guy. And it's a really good movie. It's a very tense, absorbing film, and everybody is good in it. Great performances, and Ed McMahon does, I think, a wonderful job. So if you've never seen that film, it's a thriller, so I guess it kind of fits with us. Right.
And I would say, too, real quick about Dementia and the version called Daughter of Horror. It's the equivalent of watching the theatrical release of Blade Runner with the kind of clunky narration. But then if you watch the director's cut without the narration, it has a whole different kind of surreal feel. That's the same thing with this movie. Like the original Dementia doesn't have any narration. I'd say watch that first, and then the Daughter of Horror version you can see with the more over-the-top narration by Ed McMahon. And
then watch the Woody Allen version where he gives it What's up, Tiger Lily?
What's up, Daughter of Horror?
Yeah.
It's funny. I just to talk about Ed McMahon really quickly. I'm sorry. For someone like my daughter, she really has no concept of who Ed McMahon is. And people need to understand that there was a time when Ed McMahon was the Ryan Seacrest of television.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
And I guess that's probably the best example, because everyone today knows who Ryan Seacrest is. My God, he's on American Idol. He does this morning show. He does the radio show. He's like all over the place. Ed McMahon and like Dick Clark. he not only did the Tonight Show, but he also did Star Search. He did commercials. He did other shows. He did
Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, right. And it's like he was what was that?
Publishers Clearinghouse. Remember the commercials?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he was everywhere, and he made a ton of money. But
apparently died pretty poor.
It's really
memory serves
a weird.
Me.
It's a really weird story, but kind of funny, kind of an odd thing here. On Collector's Call, one of our friends was on it recently, Wally Wingert, and he actually had a passport of Ed McMahon. It was like so hilarious that he had that. It was worth a few bucks, but
that's hilarious.
Ed McMahon, he did everything, and he was
all over the place.
Yeah. Funny thing. Well, how about that?
One more Ed McMahon thing. If you want to see a funny clip from the Tonight Show, look up Ed McMahon drunk Tonight Show, and you'll have a good time with that.
Nice. That happened frequently, though, didn't it?
Yeah.
But this one,
every Tonight Show.
Well, yes, and Johnny did a little too. But this is one where the spirits really knocked him off kilter. Yeah.
And
it's
for those,
funny.
And for those folks who aren't into Hollywood, what they would do is there would be a rehearsal like in the mid-afternoon. Then they take a break. It's dinner time. Everyone there gets fed, and there'd be booze. So the guests come in early. Johnny's there, and they would eat, and they drink. Sometimes just drink. Then they'd start the show. Sometimes these guys maybe had a little too much. And
and there was also a bar that they would sneak out to that was right next to the studio. And they would go to this bar, and there was like a back way into it, so they could just kind of slip out and get tanked and come back. And
if some of you listen back to some of those Monster Palooza episodes that we did, there might be a few crazy moments when we had.
We've had our tipsy episodes too. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Hey, why not have a little fun?
Right.
Well, Sean, that's a great
one. Yes,
that's a great one. Now, I'm going to talk about something that I have discussed on the show before, but I thought it fit because I thought it was an oddity, and I wanted to bring animation into the conversation. And I'm talking about the 1973 animated film Fantastic Planet, which is like a science fiction drama animated feature film. Now, the cool thing about this, and I know some of you out there, you've heard it, maybe you've seen it, and some of you haven't. It's really kind of a funky animated film. It's not for kids. The director was René Laloux. He was an animation specialist. He worked so hard to try to make these animated films. And this story follows. Imagine if humans are like rodents. Okay, you go to this other planet, and it's like they're very small, and sometimes they're kept. These little humans are kept as pets from these large blue aliens, and sometimes they're considered pests where they want to get eradicated. And Laloux was really cool in the sense that, he grew up during World War II. And a lot of stuff that happened during World War II, he wanted to put in the film. And this isn't just the only example, because he does it in another film too. But it's really very stylized. One of the issues with it, though, is some people feel it's very slow. The funny thing or interesting thing about this film, you guys want a funky story, the animation wasn't done in France. It was done in Czechoslovakia. And the reason why is because animation in itself is very expensive.
Right.
So to do it in Czechoslovakia was much cheaper. But why did it take so long to do the film? Because Russia invaded Czechoslovakia. And so the production kind of shut down for a bit. Which
Damn you, Russia.
Hey, what can I say? But it's like, that's one of those funky things. It's amazing that the film got made. I remember seeing it at an art house, and I'm happy to report that when the film came out, it took a while, but the film was successful. It took years.
It was kind of like an art house hit, I think.
Yes, Sean.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I guess you look at it now, it's like, well, yes, it was unique. It was very stylized. I think the designs of the creatures,
I love
the aliens are really, really cool. And their little metaphysical thing that they do is kind of from the 60s a bit. But
yeah, it's neat.
But it's a film from the time period, I guess.
Right.
I still think it's neat to see. The music is kind of funky.
I love the
it's
music
not,
track.
it's
Yeah, me
not
too.
so much. It's not so much fast paced.
It's more stylized, but it's moody. It creates an atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's
and
quite
really
beautiful.
cool.
If
all the
you're
flora
like,
and fauna is so
I
cool
think
on the
if
planet.
you watch it and you're in the mood like Sean or Matt do some reefer, and then you're like, whoa, man, this is
Well, that's
wild.
just, I remember seeing the posters back in the 70s when it would play midnight shows, and I just thought, well, this is a hippie stoner movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Because for all the world, that's exactly how it looked.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny, some people say that about Fantasia, a film that was made in 1940.
Yeah.
But it's like Fantasia, when it came out, did not do well at all. It was a big bomb. When Disney released it in the late 60s, adults were going, wow, check out all the colors. It made a ton of money. Even the advertising campaign that Disney had with the posters, they made it kind of trippy and psychedelic.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the same thing with Alice in Wonderland. They did the same kind of approach where I have one of those re-release posters from Alice in Wonderland, and it's all day glow colors and
the day glow things. Yeah.
But in fact, I have a Japanese action figure of one of the alms from Fantastic Planet.
Wow.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Yes, the humans are called the alms, and what's
humanoid creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when some of them have to battle each other. There's some sexuality in it. There's some nudity in it and stuff, and which is kind of like kind of sets up for a later film that Lelu does that I'll talk about later. But I thought that fit well in this oddity.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I accept
Fantastic
this.
Planet. Thank you. I don't know how old were you guys when you saw this.
I think I saw it came probably
later.
You know what? I think I saw it like on the Z channel or something. I bet you that's where I originally saw it.
I saw it much later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember, like James, I remember seeing the poster when it came out, but I'm like 11 or 12, and my parents, I wanted to see it, but you can't see that, and I didn't get. It's like, it's cartoon, but it was for adults, and I didn't get to see it till like 6 or 7 years later.
If Andy Panda isn't in it, then no. I want to see a glove.
And you can see this on YouTube. Some of the copies may not be the greatest, but it is.
Yeah, it was released on Blu-ray too.
Yes, it is a beautiful copy on Blu-ray, and I suggest checking that out.
Good one.
Good one.
James.
When Sean was talking about dementia, it reminded me of my experience watching Bloodbath from 1966.
Yes. Same location.
Same location and sort of the same tone and same vibe. And when I actually first saw it, I was a little kid, and it was on television as Track of the Vampire. So I was expecting some kind of, Bela Lugosi type thing. And it's definitely not that, because, the story involves this kind of vampiric but homicidal maniac who's a painter. And he paints these weird paintings, but he has these really stunning models like pose for him. And this is
William Campbell?
Yes. And apparently this was originally Roger Corman had hired out a Yugoslavian production company to make a spy movie, and it was deemed unreleasable. So he ended up repurposing it along with new footage. And the whole thing was cobbled together and released by AIP under the title Bloodbath, and then finally on television as Track of the Vampire, which, again, when I was a kid, this made a huge impact, because these images, really moody, atmospheric, black and white, didn't seem to be a very clear story, but extremely menacing.
Yeah.
And not something that seemed to be of a single mind, and that's because it wasn't. It was a pastiche. It was salvaged. It was cobbled together by different production companies and filmmakers, a la the late great Roger Corman, as he tended to do.
Yeah. It's under several titles. It's also known as Portrait in Terror, and Operation Titan, I think, was the spy version.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre. And Laurie Saunders from A Petticoat Junction is in it. Is in one of the versions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have an insert poster of this.
Really? Yeah.
I think it's a double feature poster.
Yeah.
And cool. Sid Haig is in it. Young
Sid Haig is in it.
this moment, yeah.
Jack Hill directed one of the versions. Stephanie Rothman directed another. Like I think I have a Blu-ray set which has like every version of the film on it, and it's fascinating because and actually it's a good double feature with Daughter of Horror. Actually,
All right, okay,
Nice.
There you go,
All
Matt.
right. Well, not long ago, we had an episode all about the film Incubus.
yes.
You remember
Yes.
this? This is the
course.
one done in Esperanto. We had David J. Scow on, and he
great.
wrote that wonderful book about it, and it's just a very interesting story. Well, that film, just the idea that it was done in Esperanto, reminded me of another film from 1975 called Deathula.
Deathula?
Deathula. And this is a vampire movie that is done entirely in sign language.
No way.
Yes, the real thing. It starred Peter Weschberg, and he is also the director and writer, and he goes under the pseudonym Peter Wolf. Hey, okay. But this was the first sign language movie, American Sign Language feature film ever made. And I've seen it. And after watching the film, what I discovered was that it's actually not too bad. The main problem that you have with the movie is when you see the vampire, and Kim Newman wrote, it's sincere in its commitment to the deaf community. However, Wolf stretches thin resources and tries for expressionistic effects. But that paper mache nose and evil beard keep dragging the film to the level of Dracula, the dirty old man. Which I think kind of sums it up, because there are some nice shots.
Sure.
And it's kind of an interesting story.
Are there
but-
subtitles for non
Yes.
sign language? Okay.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I do wanna
I think,
see
I think
this.
there was even a dubbed version, but maybe
But
well, maybe I'm just wishing for that. That would be hilarious.
That makes no sense.
I know. You know what? We should do that though. We should dub it.
You
But-
know, it's too bad that nobody made a movie called Blindenstein, because that would have been a great double bill.
Great double feature. Excellent. Yeah. But yeah, this guy, this vampire, which they could have just had a guy in a cape and gave him a Dracula-esque look, but for some reason they put this paper mache nose, this weird looking nose and beard that makes him look like one of the villains out of like a tokusatsu film.
See, that's a shame. Not seeing this. It's like it may not have been necessary. It could have just applied pale makeup, which would have been really easy.
Would have been much better.
Is it played straight?
Because
Matt?
it's an interesting concept. Can you imagine?
It is played straight. It's played straight, and it's like you're in a world where everybody in the world uses sign language. So it's not
Right, okay.
No one's ever. It's not like no one ever explains why everyone's using sign language. You just accept that that's how this reality is.
Now, is there like sexual?
I don't remember. I mean, it's all pretty tame.
Yeah.
Right.
If I remember correctly, I think there might have been a little bit of titillation stuff, but not too much. In fact, Psychotronic Video wrote that they thought the cinematography was pretty good, but said they described the ending as very Christian. Which, to me, from watching the film, it's just like it's your standard ending of a vampire movie.
Yeah, as a vampire
movies are always pretty Christian.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't see that really as a slam against it or anything, or that it's so especially obvious. It's a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's worth a look. It's an interesting film to watch, and it does point to the fact that if you set something up that is unusual as you're watching the film, just like when you watch a movie with subtitles, you kind of forget it after a while. But yeah, I found it way more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Wow.
I heard there was a copyright claim against it, which was it turned out to be a miscarriage of justice because there was no hearing.
Oh, see, always working. That mind that mind, you can't turn it off. And you don't want it turned off.
It's like you have me there for a moment, and then why do you? I don't know.
I'm expecting you to say there was a hearing.
No,
come on.
I don't know. If I do. I've never heard of this.
Really?
Defula.
Wow.
No,
You never heard of it?
Sean, do you remember seeing anything like that in Famous
I remember reading. No, I do. I remember reading it in Psychotronic as well, but I've not seen it. I do want to see it though. I would love to seek something like that out. I mean,
there was from this time now, after that film, there was just a slew of disability horror films. There was
wait,
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with club feet.
The Lisping Wolfman.
Lisping Wolfman.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There was
I was gonna
Eczema Mummy.
I was going to make a serious comment before you guys decide to go down this road. My daughter took sign language in high school, and she's she's pretty good. She still uses it and stuff. And I wanted to ask her. I mean, this seems like something that the teacher.
Yeah,
I would say, "Hey, kids," or would sign, "Hey, kids, we're going to watch Defula," or see if we can follow along.
That's cool.
Sean and I especially. We can watch this movie and get something out of it. It's not. Let me just put it out there. This is not a great movie.
Okay,
but it is an oddity that was interesting to watch.
Yeah,
and
I'm just happy something like that exists.
Exactly. Right. And
so Matt, is it like a student-esque type film, or
it does seem like it is not a student film, but it is. Certainly a low-budget, amateurish movie. But a little bit better than you would expect it to be.
Right.
Is it better than Equinox, or is it not as good?
Of course not. Well, Equinox has
the stop motion.
But that's not what you're going to Equinox for. You're going for the stop motion and for all the crazy. And just a sidebar here. Equinox is really Evil Dead before Evil Dead.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
You are right. That is correct. Although I have not seen Sam Raimi say that he got the idea from Equinox. It might be.
I think also just
they're so different.
But just in
tone and everything.
The ambition of the young student filmmaker making it, that has that quality to it. Like young horror fans making a horror movie themselves.
So to be
and the effects are great.
So to be clear, though, if to follow along with what Matt said, if you find a little clip of Defula, maybe watch a couple minutes, but you don't have to sit and watch the entire thing.
Maybe not.
Unless
I will.
I had to.
Unless you are, if you're listening to the show and you have trouble hearing, that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
There won't be commentary for this movie if it ever comes out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, little person in the corner.
Yeah,
and it's that guy who didn't know how to do sign language, like for Obama.
Or it's Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live. The movie's called Defula.
Oh, takes me back.
All right, Matt. Well, that was very interesting.
Thank you very much
about that. All right, Sean.
Okay, so this one, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Maybe Matt, maybe James. This is a strange one. I would say it's like a comedy, thriller, psychological horror film from 1980 under two titles. One is The Ninth Configuration, also known as Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane.
I've heard of this.
Written, produced, and directed by William Peter Blatty. His directorial debut. It is a very strange film. The cast is incredible. Stacy Keach stars as an ex-Marine psychiatrist who goes to this remote castle, which is like this asylum, to try to rehabilitate war veterans, like Vietnam veterans who are just having all these psychological issues. And his technique is to let them indulge in their fantasies and what they want, and to try to have them work out their problems that way. And so this is this kind of like madhouse of these actors playing wacky, disturbed characters. The cast includes Jason Miller, Neville Brand, Robert Loggia, Joe Spinell, Moses Gunn.
Wow.
And Jason Miller is this guy who he's putting on a Shakespeare play, with the inmates, and but all of his cast are dogs. And he keeps sending Joe Spinell out to give me a poodle. No, I want a Labrador. But meanwhile, Stacy Keach has his own bizarre psychological problems. He has this metaphysical crisis of his own. He's having horrible Vietnam flashbacks, and he's trying to figure out the meaning of good and evil, and does God exist? And all this is happening while these crazy people are running around in this castle. It is very strange. It's kind of a comedy too. It's like a lot of kind of weird deadpan comedy in it. Ed Flanders is in it. Also,
From The Simpsons?
No, that's Ned Flanders.
Oh,
Ed Flanders was the other. Ed Flanders was the other priest in The Exorcist.
Okay.
Alessandro Ray, the priest from Flying Nun, isn't it?
He's not a priest.
Or he's a minister.
Don't you ever say something wrong about the Flying Nun. He was not the priest. He was the kind of swinging Playboy guy.
Yeah. Okay, he's in too.
Jesus.
But this guy, William Lucking, Richard Lynch, Tom Atkins. I mean, I'm telling you, just to see it for the cast alone, it's worth it.
No, that's
but
great.
It's a very, very strange movie. But everybody gives very intense performances. There's lots of like long rambling dialogue scenes, but it's written by Blatty too, so it's got some really interesting dialogue, and it's not for everybody, but it's kind of compelling if you give it a shot. So again, it's called The Ninth Configuration, also known as Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane. It's considered the second installment in Blatty's trilogy of faith, preceded by The Exorcist and then followed by The Exorcist 3. So this movie is considered part of that trilogy. So I'd say check it out. If you want something very different and very bizarre, but full of wonderful, wonderful actors, check it out.
People forget that Blatty had a comedy background. I think one of his first scripts was a big comedy script. Was it The Night They Made Minsky's, something like that? Yeah.
The Party.
Yeah, that's right.
That was Blatty. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ninth Configuration has lots of absurdist moments in it too. It's very strange, but check it out.
Wow, that was a nice one, Sean. All right, back into the strange and unique world of animation. This falls into the category of it's odd, and I don't think it's really well known. Sci-fi fantasy, also directed by René Laloux. It's from 1987, called Gandahar. Are you guys familiar with this film?
No.
Gandahar from 1987. And there's a funky story about this. This is the third and final film, animated film or feature film that he did. And this took a long time to produce. One of the reasons was, again, I had mentioned to you that doing animation, especially when you're trying to create these exotic worlds and stuff, animation is very, very expensive. So instead of going to Czechoslovakia this time, Laloux went to North Korea to actually get the animation done. And that's another reason why this film took so long. But the really interesting thing about this is it is a bizarre science fiction fantasy film. It has, granted, there's not a ton of like action motion in it because of the animation with the North Koreans, but the stuff does look really cool. And again, there's stuff with fascism, time travel, giant monsters, blue beans pre-Avatar, otherworldly topless aliens, killer robots. The story follows. It's like this perfect little planet that has the beings there that are blue, much like in Avatar. The beings live off the environment, live off nature, much like Avatar. Just watching this, I'm like, oh my gosh, similarities. But this idyllic society is attacked by these robots, and where people are turned into stone, and the rulers send out their best warrior to go on out and try and find out what's what's going on, what's happening. And the funny thing is there are mutants. There's so many funky things about this. And Lalu in Fantastic Planet dealt with some nudity and stuff. Well, there's a lot of nudity in this one. And it's actually like there's like a sexual interaction, but my understanding is the European version has the sexual stuff, but the American version has it taken out. So, I mean, you can see clips on YouTube, but the designs are so cool. It's just so otherworldly. It's almost like you took Fantastic Planet and multiplied it by 10. So
Wow.
again, alien worlds, evil robots, a sexy alien lady named Ariel, of course. Look, I've dealt with animation firsthand, and just I know how difficult it is. Matt said at the beginning, hey, I got a finished film. The fact that this guy got this thing finished is amazing.
Yeah.
I believe the Weinstein Company like took it and did a dub, and it had a lot of like big stars in it, I guess. But I don't think it's really well known, and I think it's worth a view. It's an adult film. It is not like an adult film. It's for adults. It's not for kids, really, but it's worth seeing. And yeah, so again, it's called Gandahar from 1987.
I'll check it out.
Nice.
Sounds good. I love it.
I think it fits into this category. It's an
Absolutely
oddity,
it does. And I don't
yeah,
know
totally.
why the other guys
funky story.
No,
are
I
not
liked
more
it.
excited about this, but I'm with you.
I've written it down. I'm going to check it.
He's written it down. Woo-hoo.
It's 80 minutes. You know, the film is 80 minutes.
What?
You can find the entire film on YouTube, but the version that's there, it's not that clear.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a Russian version which looks better, but it doesn't have subtitles. So I mean, there is a Blu-ray out there, but I'm not sure it's something that's really common. But you should definitely check it out.
Okay. Well, I want to spotlight a screenwriter and a few of the films that he's written, because they all reflect a very unique surrealistic point of view. And that screenwriter's name is Charlie Kaufman, who first came to prominence with a script for Being John Malkovich in 1999.
Mm-hmm. It's on my list.
I mean, you'd think, okay, Being John Malkovich, maybe it's a figurative title, but no, it's a literal title because John Cusack and the other characters in the movie crawl into the head of John Malkovich, courtesy of a trapdoor. And Malkovich, of course, is in it, and you know it's
great.
Hilarity.
It's a great movie. Yeah,
it's a great movie. It's not only funny and engaging, but it's also, you know, the flow is brilliant, and it's also it hits every beat it wants to hit.
And a rare case, real quick, a rare case too, where a really, really odd movie like that was actually a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it actually, you know, I mean, because it's so bizarre and so out there and surreal, but it actually was kind of like a hit movie.
Yeah. And, you know, you take a chance, but then you do everything just right, pitch perfect.
Right.
And it works beautifully. And that's exactly what Kaufman and director Spike Jonze did. And
I love his stuff.
Yeah, he followed it with Adaptation in 2002. Where Nicolas Cage played twin screenwriters adapting a novel about orchids that Meryl Streep had written. And it just, his stories, they fold into themselves. It's about what it is on the surface, but then it goes into all these other places, both metaphysical and physical. Adaptation, I think, was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. And Nicolas Cage is like one of the perfect people to partner with Charlie Kaufman.
And that's like, I think maybe his finest role. He's so good in it.
He's really good.
Yeah. A dual role.
Yeah.
And then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with Jim Carrey. A beautiful love story having to do with erasing memory. Finally, he got a little too ambitious for me and directed his own film called Synecdoche, New York in 2008, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman as a New York theater director who he has this ambitious plan in mind to effectively turn the island of Manhattan or part of it into his own living stage. It's
not seen this one.
I haven't seen it either.
A big production piece. It's tough going. I wanted to love it, and I honestly couldn't get through it. I want to give it another chance. Kaufman has done other movies since then. Like I'm thinking of Ending Things, which, movies that I haven't gotten around to seeing. I do look forward to seeing them because I think that it's safe to say that anything that he does is thoughtful enough to warrant my time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes chances.
Agreed.
Yep.
I love him.
Talented guy.
Yeah.
Taking chances. That's what a lot of these films are all about, aren't they? Taking chances.
Taking a chance.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes
take a chance on.
But you took a chance. Yes.
Know when to roll them, know when to fold them, or whatever however that song goes.
So why don't you take a chance, Matt?
I'm gonna take a chance on me.
I'll take a chance on you, Matt.
Hey.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was having
have we
fun for a
stooped to
minute.
that level now? Have we gone to this level now? Oh my God.
Watch me go there. No, here is the movie that I have, and this is a movie that is, again, a lot better than people give it credit for.
Okay.
And this film is the 1994 English-German production of The Fantastic Four. Yes.
Oh,
What? What?
Fantastic Four.
English, German?
German?
It was a German. It's the one that you would always see at conventions bootlegged.
Oh,
But a
the
lot of
Roger
people
Corman
don't
producer.
realize, yes, but it was a German producer. And this film has an interesting story because there was a documentary that they did about how this film was made in the unfolding saga called Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I strongly recommend that film because it is fascinating because there are a lot of conflicting stories about this film. It has been said that this movie was never supposed to be released,
Right.
that they made it so the producer Bernd Eichinger could hold on to the rights of the Fantastic Four. And so they thought, well, hey, we'll put together this movie that's low budget. They got like $1 million budget, and they made this movie with Roger Corman. You can find this. I'm pretty sure that it's on YouTube. But every time we would go to a convention, you would always see, back in the days of videotapes, there'd be always someone who was selling these bootleg movies would always have a copy of The Fantastic Four. And I've seen it a couple times. And I would say when you watch it, it feels almost like a pilot for a Fantastic Four TV show.
From that time. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, from that time, right. I will say this about it. It has, I think, the best Thing representation.
I actually agree.
It looks like the Thing from the comic books. And that's one thing that has always baffled me with these Fantastic Four movies is they always want to do some sort of thing where they smooth them out and they don't give them that little ridged forehead thing. And it's like, no, make it like the comic book. People will buy it. It's fine. But the movie is not great, but it does have Dr. Doom. The director, Ole Sasson, which I believe is how you pronounce it, I thought did a good job of trying to put the most bang for the buck. I mean, he crams a lot into this movie, and you could tell, like, at the end, there's this, I believe it's near the end, there's this scene with Johnny Storm as the Human Torch, and it's a CGI moment, and I get the feeling like, they saved everything for that one moment to give it, a little bit of a production shine. It's not the greatest movie, but it is entertaining, and it's kind of a sad story, because most of the people who were working on that film had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. They thought this film was going to come out. And again, there are differing opinions of whether it was ever meant to be released. Roger Corman says it was going to be released. Stan Lee says it wasn't going to be released. When you watch the documentary, it does seem that they do a lot of things to kind of promote the movie. So I think that at some point, someone certainly had an intention to release it. And then they realized, well, we don't really have to do anything. This is our tax write-off or whatever, and we can hold on to this property and then make a better one. Because it does seem odd that you would make a low-budget Fantastic Four movie and then, 2 years later, make a big budget one?
I mean, it's there's so much that goes into making a major motion picture. The time, the energy, costumes, lighting, just arranging location. There's so much. See, to me, Matt, I believe it was going to be released. That's what I believe, because even though you say, well, it wasn't really the greatest film, look at some of Corman's other stuff.
Well, right. Yes.
You know, I'm just using that as an example.
It's a super low budget, right? I find the film charming. I think it's kind of fun.
Agreed. And I think that the acting is fine. Everybody is acting, within the confines of the universe that they've created.
Yeah.
So
but
that
Matt,
works for me.
Would you say that see the documentary following it? Because I haven't seen the whole thing. I haven't seen the whole documentary.
I think if you watch the documentary first, it might give you a better appreciation when you finally watch the movie.
Some perspective.
Because I think that people will go in, if you don't know anything about it, you'll just go, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's unfair, because I think there are way more good things in it than it's given credit for. Again, when you don't have that budget and you're working your ass off to try to get things to look as good as they can. I mean, I think the costumes, everybody else's costume looks good. I think Dr. Doom looks good.
Let me ask you something. The year that the movie was made was what?
1994.
94. So this is actually post Wonder Woman. This is post The Incredible Hulk, on TV.
Right.
So it's almost like if you had a little more money for a TV thing. I mean, because the guy who does play the thing, he does look good.
He looks great.
Yeah, it's really good.
And that takes time and energy and money. And it just seems so odd to me that, well, we're going to do this so we can hold on to the rights. That seems very odd.
Yeah, and you could have made a lot shittier of a film.
Yes.
Right. And
to hold on to the rights.
Yeah. And, just made it almost like a play and gotten away with it.
Sometimes I think it's an excuse. It's like, well, we never intended it to, and if you think with Stan Lee too, the great stuff that came later, with Iron Man and the Captain America, the whole Marvel universe, when it really got up and going, this is amazing stuff. And sure, this Fantastic Four doesn't look anything like that, but
it's the ambition. Yeah, it's the chutzpah. To make it.
And I think the disappointment of the 2005 version gave this older one a little bit more charm.
Right. I think you're right.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at there's been 3 other Fantastic Four films since that. None of them have been really home runs.
No.
And of course, we have the new one, which I hope is good, which is now officially part of the MCU. But in some ways, I respect the original, that super low budget little one first, because they just did what they could.
Have you seen the clips? Have you seen those clips?
The trailer? Any thoughts on the trailer?
We had talked about it a long time ago. It's like, what if they did a Fantastic Four in the 60s? Which looks like they're doing that. So that's
what they're doing. Yeah.
And it looked cool.
It's impossible to tell though from that trailer. I mean, I'm sure it will look cool. The thing does look pretty good.
Yeah.
It looks more like
better, way better.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it'll be good.
But again, why not just make it look like the thing, please?
Yeah. Right.
Why all these newfangled changes?
Well, those are good, Matt. Those are good.
Again, that documentary you will find fascinating, I promise.
Okay, well, here's a film that I've always really liked. I like it more every time I see it. James, I know, will be familiar with this. And that is from 1977, Robert Altman's bizarre kind of psychological mystery drama called 3 Women. Written, directed, and produced by Altman, starring Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek and Janice Rule. They are the 3 women of the title. And the movie was conceived by Altman, who came up with the idea from a dream he had. And he was actually going to shoot it without even a script. And I think he improvised a lot. And the movie is so cool. It's so well acted by Duvall and Spacek. It's a bit like Ingmar Bergman's film Persona from 1966, which is about 2 female characters where their personalities are starting to merge together. And that's what this film is. Shelley Duvall works in this desert California town at a health spa for the elderly. And she gets a new roommate, which is Sissy Spacek. And Sissy Spacek is very timid and, kind of gloms on to Shelley Duvall's character. And slowly Spacek starts to take on all the characteristics of Shelley Duvall.
Oh,
and
wow.
All her mannerisms, she starts hanging out with the same people. So it's kind of like she's becoming Shelley Duvall, and Shelley Duvall, starts to notice this, and she has this conflict with her. And then there's this third woman, Janice Rule, who's just like this strange kind of hermit-like woman who's pregnant, and she paints bizarre murals on the bottom of people's swimming pools, and she's going to have a baby. And somehow these three characters come together in some weird way. I don't know really. It's hard to describe, but it's very strange and very surreal. And like I said, the acting is very naturalistic. Shelley Duvall is great. Sissy Spacek is great. Actually, also features a character played by Robert Fortier, who was the guy in the beginning of Incubus, who was killed by the succubus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he plays a part in this, and it's just very strange. But I find it really fascinating. It's filmed in a very dreamlike way. It's very bizarre music and sound effects. And to say more about it would ruin it. It's just, if you're in the mood for something very strange, kind of like a mind fuck, I would say check this movie out. It's really interesting.
I love to have my mind fucked.
James, you've seen this, right?
Yeah, I thought you described it perfectly. And
I mean, right? It's pretty compelling.
The one thing, believe it or not, the one thing I remember more than anything else is this kind of comedy gag, because every time Shelley Duvall's driving in a car, her dress is like caught on the driver's side door every single time.
Yeah.
She's just oblivious to it.
Yeah, no, it's got some dark comedy in it too, because Shelley's character is kind of like this social butterfly, or she thinks she is, and she thinks she has this wonderful life and she's all that, and she's really not, and people just dismiss her. She's kind of a joke. And so, so when Sissy Spacek starts taking on her personality, you see this weird,
it's like a fight. Conflict. It's like a fight for dominance.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I would definitely, if you're interested for something really, really bizarre, check it out. It's really beautifully shot too. It's definitely in Robert Altman's experimental stage. Another film around the same time, Images, with Susanna York, is also another very surreal psychological film that Altman did.
And Quintet, although not nearly as successful.
Quintet too, yeah, exactly.
Now, just out of curiosity, because Altman was known by this time, was this a film that he had some money to make with? I mean,
help produce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It was probably, he did it all, and I think it was 20th Century Fox financed it, but I don't know how well it did. It may not have done that well, but I don't think it cost a ton to make. It really is kind of like an actor's film, It's just this desolate desert setting and like a little apartment building. Those are the main sets. It's nothing really elaborate, but it's really interesting.
Well, it's so funny you should say that, because, Sean, I wanted to bring up a film that was also from 1977, completely different filmmaker with not as much money, and it took a little while to make. Now, you guys know that I went to AFI, right? The American Film Institute.
Yes, right? We know.
Yes, okay. Well, there's another filmmaker who went there and took a little time to make a very strange and disturbing film, which was released in 1977, called Eraserhead.
Oh,
and I'm talking about director, producer, writer, and editor David Lynch. And when I was at AFI, I was praying that we would get Lynch in to like talk to us or something like that. But it's like Lynch had a strange relationship with AFI, from what I understand. Part of the story that I've heard was that when the American Film Institute started, it was actually at this giant mansion. It's called the Greystone Mansion, and in a huge mansion in Hollywood, okay? And it was there for a number of years before it moved to where it is now, which is where I went to school. But at this location, he came up with this concept or basic idea for Eraserhead, and he shot it in a bunch of different areas at AFI, at the Greystone Mansion, and in other places. And it took a while to make. I heard stories that AFI kicked Lynch out because of either the film was taking too long or they didn't like what happened. And there was this rule, at least when I went to school there, whenever you make a film, AFI owns it. And it wasn't really clear whether or not I guess AFI didn't own Eraserhead because he was either kicked out or whatever. The film went with him or whatever. And then later on, how AFI just kind of embraced him because he was so successful. It's kind of like a funky story.
Right.
But it's like, they're always hitting up the alumni for, hey, want to make a donation? And David Lynch would have been a great guy to get a donation from. But he never came to speak to my class. But when he made this film is so dark, nightmarish. It's depressing. And I remember hearing about this as like one of the most disturbing student-made films ever made. And I remember seeing it at an art house. This is in the early 80s. And I saw it in a packed theater. And my God, when I saw this, I've only seen the film once, but there are images that just haunt you, that just stick with you. And as far as like trying to explain it, there's this main character who lives in an apartment, and it follows his adventure, if you will. But it's like, hey, why don't you come on in and see your girlfriend? She just had your baby, and so why don't you help us cut the chicken dinner here? And it's just so odd and twisted, where just one example, something funky, this chicken that they're supposed to have, he starts to cut into it, which starts to bleed, and the little legs start moving. And then of course there's this notorious baby that everyone talks about. And I've heard some people go, if you're pregnant, don't go see this movie. It's sick. It's twisted. It's the way it's shot. It's all in black and white. And he did some very simple techniques. But when you watch it, you go, how did he do that? That is so weird. That is so wild. There's funky things. And because you got to hand it to him. The guy is just incredibly creative and brilliant, although it's disturbing as all.
There's a dark beauty to it.
Yes, Matt. A dark beauty to it. Again, it's not a film that I go, hey guys, it's a party time. Let's put on Eraserhead. That's not. Maybe that's Matt's party, but not Larry, not Larry's party. It's one of those things where there's certain images that if you're walking by the TV and you look at it, you go, what the fuck is that? And I would say that of student-esque films, whether you want to call a student film or a film that was made when he was no longer a student, it's one of the most famous, I think.
I saw it in the best way possible for the first time. I saw it in the early 80s at a midnight show in the Newark Theater in LA. It was like, that was the best way to be introduced to it. Because, it's unforgettable though. They're images that never leave you.
Yes, and I will say this: like when I worked at a movie theater when I was younger, we used to joke about people watching Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, and there were certain parts in the film where people would actually get up and leave. Okay, but it was like dark comedy.
Right.
In Eraserhead, there were also, when I was in that theater, I don't know if this happened with you, Sean, but in the theater that I was in, people actually got up and left. And
I can see that.
People,
because again, it's not, Matt,
it's not everyone's cup of tea.
No, it's not like a dark comedy. It is,
but it's like
a very dark comedy,
jet black comedy. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now, as a film person, like we're all film guys, we're all film buffs, and it's like, this is a requirement. We should see this. Is it something that you want to take your girlfriend to? No.
Depends on the girlfriend.
Well, okay. Is it something like, hey, bring the family together for Christmas? No, it is not.
Maybe not. No.
It's a unique film. It does show the really creative and dark and impressive, twisted world of David Lynch. Now, I will say this did help him get the opportunity to do The Elephant Man, which is very sad and dark too.
Right. Well, and Lynch's work most of Lynch's work could apply to genre oddities for sure.
Yeah. But
rabbits. Come on.
Yeah, we just lost David Lynch not too long ago. And I was going through this David Lynch thing, and
he died. We didn't lose him. Just want to clear that up for people listening. Well, he's going to the forest.
Yes, he passed away. And for kids out there, he was a big smoker. He smoked a lot, and that was probably the reason why he had his problem.
Demise.
Yeah, demise.
His problem with death.
So kids, don't put those cigarettes down. Don't do those cigarettes. But I do think this was the first thing that went out to the
put 'em on the
general
map.
public, and it put them on the map, and
groundbreaking in a lot of ways.
Groundbreaking film.
The
Not for
ultimate midnight
everybody,
movie.
but it definitely deserves to be in genre oddities.
And it's referenced in many other ways. Like I'm such a big fan of the punk band The Dead Kennedys, and they have a song called "Too Drunk to Fuck," and there's a lyric in it, and he's talking about this woman who he's too drunk to fuck, and he says, "You bawl like the baby in Eraserhead." So.
Yeah,
and I remember listening to the song and going, "I got to see that again."
Yeah, there's also this funky woman with these funky things on cheeks, and
yeah, she got little sacks like a hamster.
Yeah,
almost.
and it's just so bizarre, and the black and white just helps make it just
for sure.
So incredibly odd, but definitely
in Technicolor it wouldn't have been quite.
No. I totally agree, Matt. I mean, if you did like a David Cronenberg thing with all blood and stuff, I don't think it would be as good. This sets it up like an art house film.
And as slow paced as David Lynch famously was, I don't think he ever did anything as slow paced as Eraserhead. I mean,
true.
But he took it to a level that made it work. You know what I mean? But you're stuck there in the world.
But you're always questioning, where is this going? Where is this going? You're just not really sure. You're trying to me, it's weird and interesting enough to keep you going and keep you interested, even though it's slow.
It's like being stuck in a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, Matt. Absolutely.
But in a good way.
Yeah. So, genre oddity eraser.
Very nice.
77.
Nice.
Here.
Okay, this is from 2021, and it's a folk horror film from Iceland. And it's called Lamb.
I've heard of
Lamb.
this.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the type of film that as it kind of unspools, then it starts to make more and more sense. But you don't necessarily know in the beginning that it's a genre film. It's about a childless couple on a farm in rural Iceland. And they have sheep, and one of the sheep gives birth. And in order not to spoil it, I can't really talk too much about it, except to say that there's something about this lamb that makes them want to bring it into the house and take care of it. And the origin of the lamb, of this particular lamb, is very much a mystery that also becomes solved in time. And now, before I saw this film, I was concerned because I didn't want to see violence on lambs. This is not, I'm out when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
So my wife saw it beforehand, and she assured me, no, there's no violence, gratuitous violence on the lambs. That's not
your wife is the first line of defense for objectionable.
There was no lamb exploitation.
right.
It's safe, honey. You can watch it.
Yeah. So she did recommend that it was worth seeing. So I gave it a chance. And I'm really glad that I did, because it was a very interesting experience. And again, it's one of those films that when you think about it afterward, just comes together and makes its own perfect sense. It is horror. There is a monster in it, but it's a folk horror. It's quasi-mythical. It's its own thing. And I do recommend it very much.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Sounds intriguing.
Okay, Matt?
Well, I have a film from 2022 that's labeled a Canadian experimental horror film. And I would agree with this. It is the feature directorial debut of Kyle Edward Ball. And the film is called Skinamarink.
Oh.
It's on my list.
And this is a film that I was looking up analog horror. There's all this great analog horror stuff that you can find online, and I needed some recommendations, and so I went to Wikipedia, and this was one of the recommendations of an example of analog horror, where it's like kind of along the lines of like the Blair Witch Project, where everything is done on VHS or VHS even. And this film is not a found footage film, but it's almost done like it is. And the idea of it sounded great. And I can tell you that if this movie had been 7 minutes long, I think I might have really enjoyed it. But it is not 7 minutes long. It is 100 minutes. And it's a long fucking 100 minutes. And it's basically about these kids who wake up in their house. Their father is no longer around, and their mother is somewhere in the house, and they're just kind of left on their own. And so they're getting their own food. And by the way, all of this happens so slowly. But they notice that the windows are gone and doors keep disappearing. A toilet disappears, and they see a chair on the ceiling. And then they go visit their mother, and their mother is acting weird. And then they hear, like, the rest of the house, it's like these pools of light. At one point, a lot of it is happening near their TV set. And there's this old-timey cartoon playing. And they're hearing voices out in the darkness, this creepy voice that's asking them to come visit him or it. And all this stuff happens so slowly. And then the shots are not like a shot of a kid. It's like the shot of the TV set or a corner where the light is, or you see like the back of the kid's head, that kind of thing. So it's not your traditional filmmaking. And so as I'm watching this from the beginning, I do admire that someone is trying to do something. They're trying to do something unique and different. And I'm patient when it comes to that kind of thing. It's like, all right, let's see where this goes. And I don't mind something that's slow, that has a slow build. But by the time we get to scares, and this was something that shocked me a little bit, quite a few of the scares were jump scares. And I thought, well, wait a minute. This goes against what I thought this thing was trying to accomplish with mood and this low-key kind of tension. And I would be interested in seeing what this filmmaker does for his next movie. But I thought this one was promising, a promising idea, but it just really turned into this pretentious, I don't know what. Like somebody's very impressed with themselves or somehow in their mind, they didn't understand the lack of patience that even the most discerning horror fan can have. I mean, and frankly, anyone that I've met who's seen it agrees with this. And usually they're way harder on it than I am. Ken Daly saw it, and he was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I'm
fascinated though. I gotta check it out.
It's not. I'm telling you. I went through the whole thing, and there are moments. There are little scenes where you've got this creepy voice coming out of the dark, and the voice makes one of the kids do something, and you learn about it through the result after it happens, and the voice talking about it, and all that is very creepy, and I admire the attempt, but it doesn't work. And I don't understand. And I don't think it's because, I just didn't get it. I got it. I got it for 100 fucking minutes. I got it.
Wow.
7 minutes, I think it would have been a better film, a more effective film. But I was intrigued by it. I have a weird response to this movie, and I do want to see what the person comes up with next. If it's more of this, then I'm done. Then it's all over.
You're done.
Have you guys seen it?
No,
I know it's on my list.
I'm intrigued.
I was curious about it, so I Googled it, and a lot of the comments I saw were very much like yours, Matt. So I thought I'll skip this one.
Yeah,
maybe it's the novelty of it though that has made it. I mean, it seems to be talked about a lot though. It is. But
I wonder if this is one of those films that's like The Emperor's New Clothes. I just think that there are a lot of people who, especially, you ever go on to Rotten Tomatoes and you'll see they have the two scores. They have the audience score. They have the critic score.
Yes.
Usually if I go by the audience score, that is usually what is correct, whether the film is good or not.
The regular Joes of the world.
The regular Joe.
Or at least the sincere horror fans.
Yeah. I think what happens is some, Johnny Film School guy reviews this thing.
Johnny Film School.
Johnny Film School, you know,
pretentious
you followed his
cinephile,
adventures, you know, Johnny Film School. And I think that somebody watches it and then writes some sort of long-winded review. Yeah, you know, that, and this means that, and the brilliant use of color, and then all the other people don't have that 100 minutes to spare.
Right,
so they just fucking make up something.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good.
Right. That's what I think with this one. But at the same time, there is something in there. There is
some of the craft is interesting.
There is something there. And it was just such a dropped ball. And I mean, there are shots that go on for a long time where literally nothing is happening. It's a shot of a wall with the corner of something, and you hear some voices in the background. And sometimes, and I don't know if this was just the print that I was watching or if this is the way the film was made, but there are times when it has some subtitles and then other times it doesn't.
Right.
Really a frustrating experience. So check it out.
I can't wait.
Right.
Wow. Nice one, Matt. Nice one. Sean, how about you? Why don't you give us one?
Okay. Speaking of animation, Larry, you guys maybe have seen this. This is definitely one of the most bizarre and disturbing stop motion feature films I've ever seen.
I think I know.
But I do find it fascinating. This is from 2021, Mad God.
Yeah.
Directed by Phil Tippett. I kind of do too. And this, my God, how do you describe this thing? Okay, so this was written, produced, and directed by stop motion effects maestro.
Genius, yeah.
Phil Tippett. And it was produced over a period of 30 years to make this thing. Yeah. And it's a feature-length film, and it's all done in miniature stop motion animation, completely fabricated stop motion world. And to describe it, the basic plot, I guess, is that there's this character, kind of like this assassin character, who looks kind of like a steampunk character wearing a gas mask, who descends into this ruined, hellish landscape. He arrives there via a diving bell, and he's got like a suitcase and a map. And he goes on this mission, traveling through this underworld, where he encounters the strangest creatures and the strangest buildings and things. It's just kind of like a hodgepodge post-apocalyptic world. There's robots and mutants and diseased baby dolls, and he's on this mission. You don't really know what the mission is. He just goes through these one kind of horrific.
It doesn't really matter.
No, it's just one horrific set piece after another.
Yeah.
Till finally he has this thing happens at the end. I don't even know what happens at the end. But this is all stop motion, and the detail is unbelievable. It's like kind of like if you ever saw the Brothers Quay animation, that style, but even like more, like times 20. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's if you're a fan of classic stop motion and just, nightmare landscapes and surrealism, it is worth checking out. It's definitely not for all tastes, because like you walk away, there are images in it that just stick with you. It's so disturbing and weird, but beautiful too. And there's no like real dialogue either. It's just kind of like sound effects and some music and industrial sounds. And
yes.
I mean, it's pretty incredible though. And violent and gory. There was this labor of love by Phil Tippett, who himself is like this mad genius.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. If you have not seen it and are into kind of something different, I definitely think this qualifies as a genre oddity. I would say check it out. And what did you think, Larry?
Well, first of all, what I wanted to add, Sean, was for people who don't really know, Phil Tippett was one of the animators who was there at the beginning with Star Wars, the original first one.
Right.
Phil Tippett is a genius and a master at motion. And if you think the AT-ATs in Empire Strikes Back, that's Tippett. I mean, Tippett didn't do it all by himself.
Right.
But it's like, that is classic Phil Tippett. And of course, the great story. I mean, Lucas just loved him. And because he was such a wizard in the ways of motion and bringing things to life that weren't real. And the classic story is when Spielberg was going to do Jurassic Park. Everything was going to be stop motion, and it was going to be with Tippett's Go Motion, which was what he used for the dragon and Dragon Slayer, where
which I love.
Motion looked so great. And it wasn't until other ILM expert Dennis Murin said, well, we've been working with the computer, Steve, why don't you take a look at this? And showed the tests, and everything was going to be stop motion. Tippett was going to be the guy. And then they see the test, and it's Tippett who had the famous line, well, I guess we're now extinct. And that line was actually put into the script. But of course, Tippett was used as the motion guy.
Yes, he was still indispensable to make the...
Yes, and for years and years and years, he understands motion of creatures or monsters or people or things. And this was just a love of his craft. And we were fortunate enough to see him. He came to Monsterpalooza and he spoke, and he's got to the point where he's done it all. He's had the accolades, he's got Academy Awards, and he does come off like a grumpy, crusty old guy, he really does. And he needs people who are around him to kind of say, well, you're really such a lovely guy. Rah, 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 rah. But his skill as an artist is
vision.
It's just amazing. And Sean, I knew about Mad God for years.
Really?
In the animation community, we had heard that Tippett had been working on this. This was like 15 years ago, Sean. I had heard about this.
Wow.
When is that? Isn't he working on that film? Yeah, he'd been working on it for a long time.
It's like if you took Eraserhead meets a Ray Harryhausen film.
Yeah. Now, and understand, he did not do the film all by himself.
Right.
It's a monumental task.
Yeah.
And he did have a crew. And the fortunate thing is, he has been successful in his career where he has a studio. He was able to do this. And it's kind of like a love letter to art and stop motion animation. And you're right, Sean. It's not for everybody. It's like Eraserhead,
Right.
But it is.
That's a good double feature.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's really.
But it is truly glorious and.
Yes, glorious in its art.
It's epic.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Again, is it a thing that you want to bring the family together? Hey, let's watch this at Christmas.
Thanksgiving viewing.
Easter is coming up.
Yeah.
Carve out some time.
Oh, but Sean, that's a great one. That definitely
love that category. Movie. Love it.
Okay, well, along the topic of Star Wars, here's something that
Star Wars is the film?
No, not Star Wars.
Okay.
The man who made Star Wars did a student film when he was at USC, and it was called Electric Labyrinth THX 1138 4
my list too.
This was a film he made at USC. And what's weird is my former boss had gone to USC at the same time, and he remembered that film. And he was saying, yeah, well, I didn't think it was that great. But Francis Ford Coppola saw this film, and he thought Lucas had a little something magic, and he thought this was a great idea and asked that it to be developed into a feature-length film. The story is basically, imagine a world that's run by androids to kind of take care of mankind, but they live in an underground society and everything is very controlled. You got to take your medication, and it's like it's like there's a lack of emotion, and it's an interesting concept. I remember seeing the film on Creature Feature as a kid, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this? The best part for me was there's this race car sequence, which is probably like, it's the one part where it has a lot of fast motion, and that's great.
Yeah.
And there's this one tunnel in San Francisco where I believe Lucas shot them going backwards and forward and backwards to make.
Is this the Broadway tunnel?
I think so. Where there's a divider in the middle now. I don't think there was a divider at the time that he shot this. But it's neat. It's interesting. It has an impressive cast. You have Robert Duvall plays the main character, THX 1138, where people are assigned basically a number. But Donald Pleasance is also in it. Who's
so good.
It's great because he has this kind of quirky, sneaky, snivelly thing about him. And
imagine that.
Yeah, and there's something there's something wrong with him. But it's a neat film. I would think that many people who were Star Wars fans, many people wanted to find out what was Lucas's first film like, and they probably people have seen this, but I think it definitely falls into the category of genre oddities. The film did not do well at all.
I can see why.
You'd be surprised that Lucas actually had a career after that, because it bombed,
Yeah.
Right.
But then came American Graffiti, and that's another story. But still, it's a neat science fiction film. It's a very 70s-esque film, and it is great to see Duvall and Donald Pleasance have their little back and forth. So
I like it.
Yeah,
me too. I love it. The sad thing is, I believe right now you cannot get a good version of the original untampered version of it, because of course Lucas went back and added CGI additions with like machinery and stuff to like accentuate and add on to the world, which wasn't necessary. So the Blu-ray or the DVD you get is only that version. You can't get, unless maybe on YouTube, but you can't own a copy of the original version of the fucking movie.
Yeah.
At least not right now, which is ridiculous.
Because I have a copy of it's an older DVD.
The special edition version isn't that intrusive, but still, if you just wanted the original fucking version, right now I don't believe you can get it.
James,
but it's still worth checking out.
James, what did you think of that?
I have never seen THS. I tried and I couldn't get into it. It was too boring, frankly.
Yeah, and I can see that. It takes a while to get going. It's slow. I get it. In fact, I remember the advertisements for the film and the advertisements on TV always showed the race car scene.
Right.
You think that
it's this cold dystopian 70s movie. It's
James, I think you should give it another shot. I really do, because it
is interesting.
If you like Quintet, I mean,
well,
I didn't like Quintet.
Oh,
but I thought you liked it now.
No, Quintet, and I'm the one who I've grown to appreciate Quintet.
Oh, you like it? Oh,
I've got to give it another chance. I'll give it another chance.
Okay,
you don't really have to, but okay.
Well, James, why don't you give us one?
Well, this might not be that oddball to kaiju fans who know all of the Toho output back and forth, but they did turn out some more obscure sci-fi films that did not feature Godzilla or any of the famous kaiju. And one of them was called Gorath. 1962. I think the Japanese official title was Troublesome Star Gorath. And it was about
troublesome star.
It was about a lot like Armageddon. It's like there's like a star that's on a collision course with Earth in the futuristic year of 1997 or 1999. And the Space Force and all the scientists get together to try to change the placement of the Earth so it misses the star. And it's got a few Toho veterans in it. It's got Kumi Mizuno. It's got Akihiro Harada, who played Dr. Serizawa. But the film is best remembered for the appearance in the end of a giant walrus named Magma.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Back up. Do they call him Magma in the movie?
Maguma. Now,
in the Japanese version.
Do they call him Maguma?
Well, he has since been named Maguma. I have to go back to the film to see if he's actually named in the film.
Okay.
Right.
But one of the fascinating things about this is that, pictures of Maguma and figures have appeared now for decades.
Yeah.
You can't go into a Japanese figure shop without seeing some manifestation of Maguma. And I've got a marmot figure of Maguma.
Yes, me too.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
I have a little tiny gashapon.
I have no Maguma. I have no Maguma in my collection. None.
But I read that monster was added because the American distributor had told Toho, like, we need a giant monster. It's going to help us sell this movie. And without it, we don't really have much. Now, that is to take away from the quality of the film. It is a fun film. It's got a good pace.
Yeah, it's a good Armageddon type movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the prime reasons I'm bringing it up now is that our last episode was about songs in films.
Oh,
and I can't believe that I left this out, because in the middle of Gorath, you've got these astronauts flying in a helicopter. And this music swells up, and these astronauts suddenly break into a song called "We Are Space Pilots," and it's this morale song that they're chanting in Japanese, and it's catchy and it's fun, but there's absolutely no reason for it. The movie is not a musical. There are no other songs in it. It's just random, but I love it, and certainly because, if for nothing else, of the appearance of Maguma at the end.
But James, if I'm not mistaken, the monster was cut out of the American release of the film. Ultimately, I'm pretty sure if you watch the American AIP or whatever was released of Gorath, there is no giant walrus. So maybe the American producers saw like, we don't like this. Looks goofy. Take it out. I'm pretty sure.
It's possible. I got it completely backwards, because I would have thought, for all the world, that the giant walrus would have made it a lot more marketable than just.
I could be wrong, but I think
the producers goes, "It's a walrus."
I think in the Japanese version, you see Maguma, but not in the American release.
James,
you may be
James,
right.
I don't remember the movie that well. What is the justification for a giant walrus?
Well, a big part of what it's in Antarctica. The walrus is in Antarctica.
Continental shifts.
Yes,
and like
exactly.
It releases like prehistoric beasts or something.
Is that it?
The shifting of the pole had to be in Antarctica, and there happens to be a walrus, and there happens to be giant, and it's in Antarctica.
Okay,
and it happens to be alive still.
But like, of all things that they could have chosen to come out of the ice,
that's
a
logical.
walrus.
No, that makes sense. I get it.
Well, you have the deadly mantis. You have Gamera come out in the first camera, so they tried a walrus.
But just about
with glowing eyes, right? Doesn't it have glowing eyes?
I think so.
I've seen pictures of it with glowing eyes, but that might have been Photoshop.
Just for the
That was in the Italian version. They added glowing eyes.
every kaiju that Toho did ended up being in another movie at one point or another. Even Mogera from the Mysterians ended up in Godzilla versus Space Godzilla,
Right,
but Maguma never showed up again.
Where's Maguma? Where's the Maguma Renaissance? I want it now.
Where's the Maguma origin story?
Even in Godzilla Final Wars, no Maguma.
Where's the Maguma family?
No.
I want the family.
From looking at pictures of Maguma, it always came off to me like even Maguma doesn't know why he's there.
What am I doing in this movie?
He has this look, right? He's just sitting there, and there's a bunch of like stuff and ice, and he's just like, "Yeah, here I am. Yep, I'm a walrus, and I'm big. Lunch."
He wandered off the set of Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
Now, how does James? How does the song go though? Is it outer space?
We are space pirates. Ooh, there's Maguma.
How's it go?
Ground control to Maguma.
Japanese. I can't sing it phonetically, but it's rousing. I'll tell you this: it's rousing.
How's the tune go? Da, 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 da. How does it go?
Da 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 da.
We should have done this for our songs episode.
Thanks, James.
That's what I'm saying. I buried the lead.
One thing we can be sure of is we're not going to be hit with any kind of like copyright problem.
No,
that can't possibly be anywhere near what the song is.
Toho's pretty tough with that. You never know.
Well, James, that's a great one. Thank you for bringing.
No, I love. That's a great one. I forgot about that movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, your turn.
Okay. This is a movie I think we all know, and I was fascinated by it from the moment that I first saw it, and I believe it was on Creature Features, and I just couldn't even believe it. Now, we know that usually when people talk about the worst film ever made, or worst horror movie at least ever made, it's usually Plan 9. But Plan 9, I think, is actually better than that. This movie is, I believe, the worst horror sci-fi film ever made, and it's called The Creeping Terror. Right? We all remember this film? 1964.
Yeah.
And I've watched it a number of times. I watched it on MST 3000, and there's something about this movie that just fascinates me because I started to learn about what happened behind the scenes.
Yeah.
First of all, the creature itself. So the movie is really just, it's this weird looking space slug monster that attacks and eats people like whole in one gulp. And this happens in some small town in America. And when you're watching the film, you'll notice that there's a narration. We were talking about Ed McMahon. There's a narration, but it's like over people speaking. So you're like, what the fuck is happening here? And so when you do a little digging, you find out some behind the scenes information. You find out that, and there's some conflicting stories that either the soundtrack was not transferred or lost or what have you, but they didn't have the sound. They didn't have the sick sound. So they had to call in a narrator to narrate what is going on. And I think what they might have done is they looped a couple moments of dialogue just so there was something there.
Yeah.
Right.
But most of it is narration. And it's not like on April 18th, Army intelligence was informed that an alien creature was on the loose. No, it's like Susan comes in to serve coffee and Bill is a bit perturbed at the fact that it's summer and it, like all this nonsense. So that's strange. And then I do a little bit more digging and I find out that now I thought this was just made by a bunch of loser nobodies, but turns out Robert Silliphant is the credited writer, but it was actually written by his younger brother, Alan Silliphant, who is the brother of Sterling Silliphant, who worked on Alfred Hitchcock, Perry Mason, co-created Naked City and Route 66. And the director and producer and editor is a guy named Vic Savage. That was his screen name.
Nice.
Vic Savage, which fantastic, right? If you're going to name yourself, why not Vic Savage?
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Viv Savage from Spinal Tap. Now, it seems there was a falling out with Silliphant, and so he took off, and he had really only written, a vague treatment. So that was really all they had. So they're going to make the film, and then the makeup guy doesn't get paid, so he takes off with the monster costume that they made.
No.
So the monster that you see, they had to make in like an afternoon, and it shows. Because you look at this thing, and it's like someone glued yarn and some felt onto a sleeping bag. I'm not. Am I exaggerating this? No, it does look like that, right?
Yes.
And this thing is so slow and unmenacing, goofy, and people have to come to the monster to be killed. And there's a scene where there's this guy who's kind of chubby and he's fishing, and this thing comes out, and you've never seen someone fall more often in a film so he could be killed. But yeah, I was amazed. I didn't know about this Silliphant connection, and just the fact that they lose the soundtrack. The makeup guy takes off with the costume, but that's not where it ends, because before this thing was going to be released, Savage was sued a bunch of times, so he just disappears.
No.
Yeah. So that was the end of anything that he ever did with film. I guess he did resurface because it's reported that he died of liver failure. You put two and two together there.
Wow.
In 1975 at the age of 41, which is very sad. Yes.
Wow.
But in 2009, and this is what Wikipedia says, so who knows? And I tried to follow this, and I couldn't find anything to really back it up or refute it. But it says in 2009, his wife Lois wrote a tell-all novel that featured her life with Savage, but using aliases. How fucking weird is all this?
Wow.
That is very
Matt,
weird.
Matt, also the movie has this bizarre kind of fetish with women's legs and looking up their skirts, because when the monster eats women, it like dwells on these shots of the women being like pulled in, and you see like you're seeing their legs and their underwear. It's so bizarre. It's really strange.
Sean, they had to do something.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's so
Yeah,
bizarre.
and please understand, though. I mean, I know this sounds like, oh, it's kind of hack. It's so hard to make a feature film and to get people together and
True,
to
yes.
pay for stuff. And I mean, it's so hard. And the fact that this film actually got made and finished, even with the narration, I mean,
And
that's
somehow
still,
released. Yeah.
I mean, it's still impressive, you know, that this film with all the problems actually got.
When I watched this for the first time, I was amazed that anyone showed up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you ever watch a movie and you go like, people came back like after the first day.
Right.
Yeah.
Film more of this.
Well, because, you know, people that you want to be a professional, you know, and some people may have looked at it as maybe they're starting out or
Sure.
There's so many stories as to why people do, but this is in Hollywood. I would see this all the time, Matt, of people, you know, coming from all over the place to work on low budget stuff or something where you're not getting paid because you need that credit. You need that experience. And yes, the days are long and hard and stuff, but it's like paying your dues in a way.
Yeah. But you know how we'll watch movies and people will list a film, Roger Corman movie, for example, as, you know, really low budget, terrible movie.
Yeah.
You will eat those words
Right.
after seeing this movie.
Wow.
That's true.
Because
Matt, you know
any
what,
of
though?
those movies are better. Any of those movies have better production value than this. This is like,
Sure.
it's shocking how bad it is.
And yet, if somebody made an action figure of the monster, I'd buy it.
I think that's I think that's where I draw the line.
I think
If it was
Sean,
really
maybe,
good, like-
maybe I'd rather get myself a Maguma figure than the Creeping Terror figure. So
I'll just cosplay. I have a sleeping bag.
Right.
And here's another thing that I didn't know about. In 2014, there was a docudrama film about the making of the Creeping Terror called The Creep Behind the Camera, aka Creep.
Yes,
Which
I've
has
seen
anyone? And
Yeah.
you've seen
I have
it?
not. I have
it's
not.
not.
Seen
It's
that.
not very good because it's very kind of like wink, wink, self-consciously.
Okay.
If they had just made a straightforward documentary on it, you know, that would have been
Okay.
better. But they try to kind of do reenactments and have a guy playing the
reenactments
doesn't
are
work.
okay. Reenactments are okay, but stay straight. You know, play it straight.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right. Ed Wood captured the perfect vibe of
Tim Burton
doing
film.
something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So great. Well, Matt, that's great, guys. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
We could go on and on.
Yes, we could.
Yes.
You guys brought up a lot of great titles, some that I wrote down. I'm going to have to see. But what do you say we do a lightning round, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's you like to it.
Quick one. Just
Okay.
get out there.
All right, I'll throw out a few. I think, Matt, you're familiar with this film from 1980, Forbidden Zone, directed by Danny Elfman's brother, Richard Elfman. And this film is, wow, how do you explain this film? It's basically a filmed stage play. It was based on the stage performances of the Los Angeles theater troupe, The Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, with Danny Elfman. And it's like this surreal musical comedy fantasy about this French girl who enters this other dimension, and she's seen by this king who rules over the strange land, played by Hervé Villechaize.
Right.
But Hervé Villechaize is married to Susan Tyrrell, who's jealous, and Danny Elfman's in it as Satan, and it's like a musical. But it's so bizarre. It's a good triple feature with Eraserhead and Mad God. Just check it out.
I don't care for it myself.
Yeah, it's a little hard because it's very cheap looking, but some of the music is good. Like a couple of the Danny Elfman songs are pretty cool. But I mean, the cast is interesting. But wow, it's a bizarre one.
I think it thinks it's funnier than it is.
Yeah, kind of. Another movie I talked about before, which I do like, but it's not for all tastes, from 1982, Liquid Sky. Strange, a Russian filmmaker. Basically, tiny aliens land on the roof of a Manhattan apartment building and drain endorphins from the drug-addicted residents while they're having sex. The apartment building is filled with all these kind of androgynous fashion models, and Paula E. Shepherd is in it, who played Alice from Alice Sweet Alice. It's very strange, very low budget, but worth checking out. And a film I think that we have all seen that is quite good despite its low budget is Curtis Harrington's 1961 film Night Tide. with
Oh,
Dennis
yeah.
Hopper, who falls
Yeah.
in love with a mysterious woman who's performing as a mermaid in a carnival, and she says that she's like a siren. Kind of has like a Cat People vibe to it.
Yeah.
Lana Anders is in it. It was all shot in Santa Monica on the pier and the beach, and it's very, very moody, kind of atmospheric, kind of love story,
Understated.
but it's cool. But it's quite compelling and good performances by everybody.
I like it.
Yeah, I say those three. Check them all out.
Okay.
Nice one, Sean. Okay, really
Yeah, great
quickly.
job.
There was a time when no one thought this book could be made, but it was made by one man, at least one of the stories. And this is Lord of the Rings from 1978, done by Ralph Bakshi.
Oh, right.
And the funny thing about this film, people don't understand, the film was actually shot live action with just plain backgrounds and then rotoscoped.
Right.
In other words, it was like
remember
the live
rotoscoping?
the live action was used as the model, and then they did the animation over it. And look, I saw this as a kid in 78, and I just loved it. I loved the music, and the
me
funny
too.
thing is, it pretty much follows like Peter Jackson's first, the Fellowship of the Ring, pretty much on the nose. And granted, Peter Jackson's is just glorious. It's fantastic. But this is unique. It's interesting. I mean, how the goblins and the Balrog and how they're all created. And I mean, it's live action guys, but with animation over it. It's unique.
It works though.
Fun.
I think
it's fun.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it. And I mentioned this other film before, but it is sick. It is twisted. It belongs on Genre Oddities. It's from 2001 by creator Bill Plimpton, Mutant Aliens.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And
I tried to talk Matt into seeing this because there's this astronaut that's sent into space and he gets on this alien asteroid. How does this poor astronaut survive? He has sex with the aliens. And it's sick. It's twisted when they come back and what he brings with him. It's the sensibility and the sense of humor of Bill Plimpton, which is sick and twisted. But he did all the animation. It's funky. Again, not a family film, but an adult film. So there you go. There's a couple for you.
All right.
Nice.
James.
All right.
My first pick is a movie from 2019 called Vivarium, directed by Lorcan Finnegan, starring Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, who play a couple. They're house hunting, and they come upon a community where every house is the same. It's a prefab community, and they can't find their way out, so they are trapped there. And the long and short of it is that they are being observed by aliens, and they are given an offspring, which they are compelled to take care of. And some of the visuals in this, and certainly the vibe and some of the actors, truly memorable. One of the most freaking depressing movies I've ever seen in my life by the end.
The end is kind of a head scratcher.
Well, my interpretation of it is it's hard to talk about it without spoiling it.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
That's okay. That's okay. But even for a bit of my frustration with the ending, I did enjoy the film. There are so many interesting moments, especially with the child. Those scenes are so unusual and tense, and the kid who plays, especially the youngest child, not the baby, but he's like 6 years old, 7 years old. That kid is terrifying.
And my other oddball picks, this is a double feature of stage musicals that were adapted from films, both adapted by Jim Steinman, the Meatloaf songwriter.
Yeah.
The one that he had success with was called Dance of the Vampires, and it was based on the Roman Polanski film.
Oh, yeah.
From 1967.
Fearless Vampire Killers.
The Fearless Vampire Killers, yes. And it was a hit in Germany, and it was called Tanz der Vampire. And it incorporated a lot of Jim Steinman songs that were hits, like Total Eclipse of the Heart and other recognizable ones. And it's been brought back into production in Germany countless times. It was playing there the last time I was there. I didn't get to see it, but a lot of it you can see on YouTube. It's in German, but the songs are, again, they're recognizable. Now, Steinman was in a project in the early 2000s to do a Batman Broadway musical that was going to be directed by Tim Burton.
What?
Nothing ever materialized because I guess that, I don't know, the funding fell out, or Batman was I don't know, the public perception was that after the Schumacher films, there wouldn't be as much interest.
Right.
But all of the songs, demos, are on YouTube. And he included the Joker and he included Catwoman. I guess it was sort of a combination of the first two Burton Batman films.
Wow.
And one of the songs is even called "Where Does He Get All Those Wonderful Toys?"
Wow.
So for Meatloaf, for Jim Steinman fans, I do recommend checking out those demos.
Wow.
I love
Nice.
Jim Steinman.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Matt?
All right. Well, first up, I've got a 2010 English language but French independent horror comedy, and comedy in quotes. This is a film called Rubber.
Oh yeah, it's on my list. I've never seen it, but I want to see it.
I have seen it, and it is about a tire named Robert who comes to life, and he has psychokinetic powers, and he kills people, and he can do things like he can make animals explode. And so this is another film where, had it been 5 minutes, I would have went, all right.
See, it was Skinamarink.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But Jesus Christ, this is one of those films that's very meta, you know, and so while you're watching the film, you cut to people who are actually an audience who are watching the film.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it's this pretentious, I guess, meaning to be humorous, you know, device that he's put in this film that I think does not work at all. And you know, maybe this is for someone, but for me, I just think it's not funny. It's not interesting. I personally would love to have seen a straight horror movie about a killer tire. I think that would have worked much better than this, you know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, fucking French meta bullshit.
It was a little flat.
Not that I'm betting. Not that the French are to blame for this. I don't want to put that out there. I'm not blaming all French people for the movie Rubber. Okay,
there are some lovely French people.
There are some great French people.
Yeah,
who had nothing to do with Rubber.
And I love France.
Me too.
I had a great time when I was there.
As James would say, did the director have an inflated ego?
Hey, tread lightly. Okay. All right. My next one up is a movie that I've talked about many times, but I just love it, and more people should see it if they haven't. And it is 1975's A Boy and His Dog. Directed by L.Q. Jones, and it is based on the novella of the same title by Harlan Ellison, starring Don Johnson, Susan Benton, Albie Moore, and Jason Robards. And in a nutshell, it's about this post-apocalyptic world where dogs can communicate with their masters, and it's really the other way around. The dog is really running the show, and the boy is the idiot.
Yeah, kind of did.
Yeah, but they communicate through telepathy, and they just are surviving in this wasteland day to day. And the dog will help Vic, who's his boy, find women he can have sex with, and it's brutal in many ways, but but it's not as offensive if you look at it as a satire.
Yes,
because that's what it is,
and a great ending.
The ending's amazing.
A great ending that actually the ending line is one that Harlan Ellison did not care for.
Right.
Because it's a little crass. Where the character of Vic is at the end of the film is not where he is at the end of the original story.
But and listeners, you'll have to see it. You'll have to see it.
And you'll also have to read the novella because it's great. Now, originally, James Cagney's voice was bounced around as the voice of Blood, but they ended up getting Tim McIntyre, who is just amazing.
Oh, he's great.
He's so good and really brings that dog to life. The music in the film, I had no idea, but apparently Ray Manzarek had something to do with the music. And this is a little bit of trivia that I was not aware of, but the dog who plays Blood in the film is Tiger The Brady Bunch's family pet.
No
way. Wow.
Oh my.
Perfect double feature, Boy and His Dog and the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
That dog was great. I had no idea. Well, I guess they made him up because, it's apocalyptic and
we should get him on the show.
It's kind of gruffy
But my question is, why wasn't Tiger helping Greg get laid? I'm just saying.
Right.
Tiger disappeared after the first season. They never really explained that.
Well,
that's right. It was Apocalypse.
Why.
And then last, but certainly not least, is, I think, the definition of a genre oddity. It's a little film that we did some audio commentary for. 1963's Right Hand of the Devil.
Right Hand of the Devil.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's an oddity, all right.
Yep.
Yes.
Man. What a story.
Billed as the most satanic plot since Diabolique. And it is directed and starring Aram Catcher. He's an actor who was a hairdresser who always wanted to make a movie, made a movie, got all of this together, got a really great cinematographer, and made this little thriller. He is creepy. The story is bonkers. The cinematography is gorgeous.
Yes.
And if you want to know more about this film, I suggest you pick it up, listen to our commentary. We have lots of information.
So much information.
Yeah. Yes.
And we actually, we were able to speak with someone who knew Aram Catcher.
Yes, that's right.
We were able to get some inside information that wasn't really known. And there's a lot of great information on that Blu-ray. It's a film,
especially about him too.
But
he's a fascinating character.
For the low budget films that we've seen and we've talked about, so this is the low budget film. It is impressive for a low budget film, and the fact that he did all of this. I mean, obviously he was a control freak, but it's a neat film. It's a neat little film.
I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and from what we researched, Aram Catcher was not the easiest person to work with.
Right.
And he did a lot of television work, or I don't know about a lot, but he did some. And he would normally, he was a character actor, and he would play Napoleon quite a bit.
He looks just like him.
Yeah. But he was on an episode of I Dream of Jeannie, and by all reports, he was an even bigger pain in the ass than the real Napoleon.
Just to follow up on that, one of the things that he did, he has a little part with one or two lines. He actually said, "Cut," when they were rolling. And the director said, "What the fuck? What? Who is this guy?" I mean, it's if you go to acting school, it's the one thing they teach you never to do. Okay, but
yes. Luckily, his salon did very well.
Yeah.
So his show business career, I guess, it seemed like it was almost like more of a hobby, but good thing, because he loved to burn bridges.
Yes.
But if you pick up the Blu-ray from Film Masters, we put so much into that commentary, and it's a neat film. It definitely belongs in this category, Matt. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. And there you go.
Nice.
Well, this has been fun.
It's been odd.
I'm oddly joyous.
See, now I gotta see what that Maguma walrus figure looks like. I gotta check that out.
It looks like a walrus, basically.
Yeah, spoiler.
That's the thing. They don't even make it like a monster walrus, a mutant walrus. No, it's just a walrus.
Yeah, it's oddly walrus shaped.
So what do you guys say? We lift our glasses and give a toast to genre oddities.
Woohoo! Genre oddities. Did you see that tire blow that cat up?
Time for a listener shout out.
Odd shout out.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. Why are we having a shout out? It's strange.
This goes out to all of our listeners who have enthusiastically congratulated us upon our announcement that we have once again been nominated for the Rondo Awards.
Yes!
The
The Rondos! We made it! We're back!
Once again. And
That's right.
Normally I'm kind of like try to be cool about this, but this year I'm like Larry, I want this.
No, I'm done. No, I want this. I want.
No,
this.
I want it too.
But it's like, guys, consistently, man, people have thrown our names in the hat. I mean, this is great.
Oh, yeah. Certainly, the nominating process, absolutely. Knowing that the listeners have supported us, even just to get nominated, and the outpouring of congratulations coming into our social media, been really, really heartwarming. So really appreciate that.
Yes,
but this time, like I said, we need this.
Yes.
None of us is getting any younger.
No.
And I need this. And Larry needs this. I mean, we can't have Larry. We can't visit Larry in the cemetery and look at his tombstone and have it say,
Larry
didn't get a Rondo.
Larry, no Rondo Stroth.
So look,
we don't want to be the Diane Warren of the Rondos.
You have a friend that that you likes Monsters stuff, you go, hey, why don't you vote for that Monster Party podcast?
Yes, if you know if your friends, family, strangers on the street, let them know, tell them to vote.
Get annoying.
And look, we'll give you information as to where to go and what to do, but this has to be on your radar. You got
do it.
It's rondoaward.com, and you can also put us down for best commentators too. For it, we had just mentioned Right Hand of the Devil by Filmmasters.
Yeah,
also by Filmmasters, The Devil's Partner. We did those two commentaries for Blu-ray releases last year, so you can write us down for those as well.
Please, yeah.
Well, the Blu-rays from Filmmasters with our commentaries are available for purchase online, but you know what else is available for purchase online?
What?
Monster Party merch.
Hey.
No.
Yes. The Monster Party t-shirt with the glow-in-the-dark logo. Also the Kaiju variant t-shirt by Derek Robertson.
Yep.
We have the legendary Monster Party cap with the logo knit with billions of stitches, just billions of stitches in that cap.
And we're back.
Why bother?
The Monster Party shot glass. So you can join us in raising our glasses to our guests at the end of every episode.
That's
the
right.
Monster Party PPE cloth mask. And listen, it's easy to remember where to find it. It's on our eBay store, which is called Monster Party Store. You really can't miss it.
No.
That's right.
And if you happen to be a Patreon member and buy merch from our eBay store, we will throw in free surprise goodies, courtesy of our good friends, Jason Lindsay at Biff Bang Pow Toys, and foam fabber extraordinaire, Ted Haynes.
Ted Haynes.
Yeah. Two men who are the very definition of genre oddities.
Guys, I've been taking this deep dive into all these oddities, and I got to say, my brain is a little frazzled right now. I'm kind of lost on what this whole Patreon thing is all about. Can you refresh my memory, please?
Well, much like naming a deaf vampire Defula is a bit on the nose, Patreon is ridiculously on the nose when it comes to providing exclusive Monster Party bonus content. Now, we're talking our special audio episodes, our shows like Monster Party Masterpieces, Monster Party on the Road, and our popular Toy Time series. We also have our legendary Japan trip video diary, behind-the-scenes convention footage, and vintage sci-fi and horror fiction edited by our resident Lyskarian, John Bordeaux, and more.
Wow. Well, that sounds wonderful, and I'd love to subscribe, but I got to say, I'm saving my pennies for the Super 7 Maguma Shogun Warrior figure that's coming out. It's going to be pretty pricey, guys, so I don't know if I can afford this plethora. How much does it cost?
Well, for the price you would have paid a young Matt Weinhold to become a Human Torch stunt double with the help of a can of lighter fluid and some matches, you could become a Monster Party patron, and that price is $5. $5 a month.
What?
That's great. I mean, you can't get the exclusive Skinamarink action playset for that price with nothing in it.
I had no idea that a playset could go on so long.
Wow. Well, okay, I'm in. How do I join?
Well, all you have to do is you go to patreon.com, you go to Monster Party, you click join, you follow the instructions, and next thing you know, you'll be as happy as the producers of I Dream of Jeannie firing Aram Catcher.
And let's remind everyone that we are on social media. We are on Facebook at Monster Party TV, YouTube at Monster Party TV, Twitter, now called X, at Monster Party HQ, and Instagram at Monster Party HQ. And hey, listen, wherever you're listening to us, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So please take a moment, write a review. A review on iTunes would be awesome. But please send us your thoughts however you can. We'd love to hear them, and we will read them on the air.
And not only will we read your review, we'll get Tiger to read it. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
And seek out your own genre oddities.
Right, Ed?
Hi-yo!
You think I was going to say something funny? But
no, I didn't actually think you were going to say something funny. But go ahead.
No, it's like the Oscars. That's when Hollywood all gets together and they
can all go fuck
each
themselves.
Other. Well, why that? Is it because you didn't get your nomination?
Yeah, I thought for sure this was my year, Larry. I thought for some of my my Zoom work, I thought I'd be recognized.
But you see, the funny thing is there are things, okay, maybe the Oscars aren't really your cup of tea. I
like the show, actually. I like Conan.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He was good. And the writers.
And the Sandworm. Come on. Who?
I liked all of it. I liked all of his stuff. All of his stuff I thought was great.
I love that. I nearly wet my pants when I saw the Sandworm the first time. And then the Sandworm came back and did another gag, and he says,
I wet my pants because I have a sandworm. Age,
Shawn, I'm sorry you missed it, man. It was, the Sandworm was
damn
worth his price of admission.
And you'll never be able to find it online too, because the minute it airs,
That's right. That's what I do every year. I go the next day. I go on YouTube and watch the 5 minutes of funny stuff,
right?
And then I can say I've watched the Oscars. That's also and when the Oscars are on, guess what? I watched a movie. How's that?
I was at an Oscar party, so it makes it more fun.
Cool.
That's good. I mean, don't you think though? Shawn, if you're in Hollywood, if you're in LA, I mean, it's a requirement. Aren't you required?
I'm not required to do anything in Hollywood.
Why? Why?
Because
all I'm required to do apparently is piss on a star on the Walk of Fame.
Well, you can do that too, but it's like we're in entertainment, and this is where entertainment comes alive.
I keep telling myself that.
It's it's
Shawn, what movie did you watch instead of the Oscars? Just curious.
It was actually, I think, was it Wild Robot? I think we got that. I got that for Gina. I got that for Gina on Blu-ray. We already seen it. And I really liked it. So yeah.
Okay.
It was nominated for Best Animated Feature.
Cool.
Yeah. I watched Emmanuel in Space, and at the same time that I was watching the Oscars on my phone. It's not the same.
No. But can you imagine, though? Get this.
I will imagine. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm doing it. I got my imagination cap on. Go.
You know how there's this season, or award season, it always ends with the Oscars. The Academy Award is always like the last award. They give out the Golden Globes. What if, guys? What if next year they do the Rondos, and the Rondos are televised? And
well, if we didn't get it, then I would be more depressed about it.
Well, no, because
I
Would
couldn't
the
rent a
rondo
tux.
ceremony be 3+ hours as well?
Actually,
Well,
no,
it'd
Sean,
have to
it
Or
would
would it
be
be 20
long.
minutes?
No, it'd
It
be
would-
longer because if you recall,
so
during
many
the Academy Award, they
categories.
say that the nominees are
Right.
A, B, C, D, and E. So there's like 5. For the rondos, in some of these categories,
I know.
there's 20 or 30.
Plus people can write in their own. So really,
Right.
it's like,
James is,
Yeah.
even the angle that you have where you're kind of lying back, James, it's like you're doing it from space,
yeah. From a NASA capsule.
Oh, are you doing the pen thing? I just learned how that was done.
I know. Isn't that amazing, Larry?
Dude,
Isn't that incredible?
I had no idea.
What,
And
the pen
I'm
thing
like Mr. Effects guy,
in 2010?
No, not in 2001. In 2001, I had no idea what they went through, and it just goes to show you the level. I'm sure you'll agree with this, Larry. The level of ingenuity and creativeness, and like, hey, let's solve this problem. How do we do it? So they had the pen on this it has a little stickum on it, and they put it on like a sheet. This sheet of plexiglass
that
they
rotated.
would turn. Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
was
but
it?
so brilliant.
I thought it was glass.
Well,
yeah.
You know what? You're probably right.
maybe. But no,
Yeah.
you guys, if you ever watch on YouTube, watch the bloopers from 2010, because the scene where Roy Scheider's explaining something with the ships, and he takes a pen and he just holds it, puts it, and it was just, he stuck it on glass, and it keeps falling and falling and falling every time.
That's funny.
They eventually got right, but it was the same concept, but they kept messing up. That's kind of funny.
It is
That's
crazy.
the kind of blooper that only we would like.
Yeah, I know.
But
Speaking of,
There's no such thing now. Yeah.
Speaking of Roy Scheider, I finally customized NECA Jaws Roy Scheider figure.
Wow,
No.
those glasses look like the glasses of Eldon Tyrell, giant glasses.
Let's see
Dr.
the
Eldon Tyrell.
let's see the face. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Well, I haven't finished painting the face yet,
Oh, okay.
but
Pretty good though.
Yeah,
Wait, is that
I
that's
like
a
it.
custom
It's coming
head?
along.
That's
it's
a
coming
custom
along.
head?
It's coming along. I got the clothes from Classic TV Toys, and the body's just a NECA body, and the head. It was a good sculpt. There were a couple of different sculpts, but this one was.
It is good.
If I could just go out on a limb here, for the family of Roy Scheider, it is such a great honor to get made into an action figure. And I don't know what you people are doing. It's like, well, I don't know if he would. I bet he would have loved it. And how would you
really
like
know
to
about
be?
that.
No.
I don't know.
How would you like to be the third guy who's not included? Oh, they did a
right.
Robert Shaw. They did a Richard Dreyfuss. And they can't do.
I think he could live with it. I'll bet he could live with it.
Oh no, I could not live.
Well, you couldn't, but I think he could.
If Mattel came to us and said, "Okay, guys, we want to make,"
But we're talking about Roy Scheider.
No, I'm just saying. But if Mattel came and said, "Hey, Monster Party, we want to make some action figures, but how maybe one of you isn't that popular or whatever, and so we can only make 3 of you." I mean, wouldn't you feel bad being the one left out?
I'm sorry, Larry, but Ken is in, and that's just the way it's going to be.
I heard they're actually re-releasing Jaws in theaters too, coming up soon.
Oh, well.
See,
Yeah,
there's
it's
all
pretty
this
cool.
Jaws stuff. They're missing out. And then one day, maybe like 20 years from now, the family's going to go, well, I guess maybe it's not enough time, and no one will care.
Did I tell you that? So when they're doing the jury selection, at the end, the judge asks, is there anything else you can say that would affect the case or something? But normally they didn't say affect the case. So I have a comedian friend who was there with me, and he didn't get chosen for the jury, but he did say at the end when they said that, he said, oh, I'm a Pisces, and, like that. And everybody kind of laughed. And at the end, I don't know why I said this, because I think I was hungry, but they come to the last question and they say, is there anything else you'd like to say? And I don't even hear about the case, but I say, I am never not in the mood for fried chicken. and it's just like silence. I'm like, great, I'm bombing during jury duty.